Time for our great debate, and tonight's premise: bringing Guantanamo Bay detainees to America is a security risk. Some Republicans say that is exactly what happened today when Ahmed Gulani was brought from Guantanamo to New York to face trial. And joining us to debate tonight, Liz Cheney, the former vice president's daughter, who also served in President Bush's State Department. She thinks Gitmo prisoners do not belong on American soil. On the other side, Joan Walsh, who is editor-in-chief of Salon.com. And we want your opinion, too. Vote by calling the number on the bottom of your screen. First, we're going to have opening statements from each. 30 seconds on the clock. Liz Cheney, the premise is bringing Guantanamo detainees to America is a security risk. Make your case.
Hi, Campbell. Thanks for having me. Well, I think that it's clear that al-Qaeda operatives and terrorists have spent a lot of time and have expended a lot of effort to get into the United States. So I think it's impossible to argue that when our government actually helps them get into the United States, as we would do in this case, that it doesn't make us less safe. Of course that makes us less safe. Secondly, you've had the Director of National Intelligence and the Attorney General talk about the fact that some of these detainees will in fact be released in the United States. So faced with a situation where you can either have terrorists detained in a secure facility on Guantanamo or in your neighborhood, I think it's clear that you're less safe if they're in your neighborhood.
Joan?
Campbell, I just think that's really silly. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Mullen, before Barack Obama was inaugurated, said we have to close Guantanamo. It's a recruiting symbol. Secretary Robert Gates agrees. General Petraeus agrees. These are all high-ranking military figures in the Bush-Cheney administration. John McCain agrees. We did not have a debate about Guantanamo last year because everyone agrees except Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney, I might add.
Well,
Second,
I think actually there are also 90 U.S. senators.
Liz,
there are
don't
90
interrupt
U.S.
me.
senators.
That's
Come on,
outrageous.
guys. Come on.
Sorry, but the bell rang. There are
well,
90
Campbell, she took some of my time. May I finish?
Okay, a couple of seconds, Joan.
Thank you, Campbell. I appreciate it. There are 340 convicted terrorists already in American supermax prisons, including Ramzi Youssef, who planned the World Trade Center bombing in '93, and the Unabomber, and plenty more.
Okay.
We can do this. We've done it. We'll do it again.
Let me let
several
Liz respond.
things. I think, first of all, it's outrageous for you to say that it's just the Cheneys who think that terrorists shouldn't be in the U.S. Actually, 75% of the American people don't want to see terrorists from Guantanamo brought here, and 90 U.S. senators.
It depends on how you frame the question.
Now, Joan, are you going to interrupt me, or are you going to let me talk here?
Let her make her point, Joan.
I think it's very important. I recommend to you, if you haven't read it yet, a book called Willful Blindness by Andy McCarthy, who prosecuted the blind sheikh. And in his book, he goes through in great detail the very real failings of the criminal justice system when dealing with terrorists. Our criminal justice system is simply not set up to handle the kinds of classified information that would have to be turned over to terrorists in order to prosecute them. You've got a real potential that you get these terrorists here and judges will decide that they've got to be released, that they can't be held indefinitely in U.S. maximum security
The top military
prisons.
leaders of our country want Guantanamo closed. President Bush, in June 2009, gave a speech where he said he would close it and he would bring people home and try them here.
I'm sorry, he did not say he would bring terrorists onto the homeland. No, he didn't say that. It's a very different thing to say.
Who came to the United States today. If you're not going to stop, Liz, I won't stop.
Hold on for a second, because I want to clarify this. Joan, let me ask you this, because we've heard President Obama himself say that there are some detainees that will not be able to be tried in regular courts and that can't be released. What do you do with these people then?
You know, that's a hugely divisive issue, Campbell, and Liz may be closer to President Obama on it than I am. He has talked about for we believe it's a handful, it might be more, we don't know. He has talked about creating a system of review for the relatively small number of people at Guantanamo who, A, seem like they want to harm us, but B, can't be tried either because we don't have the evidence or because we tortured them under the Bush-Cheney torture regime, and thus we can't use the evidence we acquired. I don't know how many people there are. I think it's going to be a very divisive issue, but we shouldn't start there, Campbell. We should start with the vast majority of detainees who are, A, either innocent, like Lakhdar Boumediene, who ABC exposed the horror of his torture at Guantanamo, an innocent man tortured, or if they did something, they will be tried, just like Mr. Gilani. 4 of Mr. Gilani's co-planners in the 1998 embassy bombings are in jail, in
Joan, I'm
prison
sorry, but your
for
facts
life.
are
No
just
parole.
wrong.
The system
Your facts
works.
are just wrong. The vast majority
really?
of the detainees...
Liz, Joan,
yeah,
let
really,
Liz make her
actually,
point.
The vast majority
Sure.
of detainees at Guantanamo now, the 241 or so who are left, are the worst of the worst. As you know, we released a number of them during the Bush administration, those that we thought actually could be released, and 14% of them returned to the battlefield. So it may be that, you know, sitting in Manhattan...
That's not true, Liz. The Pentagon
it actually
has refuted
is true,
that
Joan.
number.
Joan, you gonna let me talk
The Pentagon has refuted that number, and the New York Times abandoned
you got a lot
it.
of time here. I got to let Liz finish her point. Go ahead. You get the last
Joan,
word.
I think that, you know,
take a break.
it may be the case that it's easy to sit in Manhattan or wherever you're sitting, Joan, and say, gosh, these people don't really want to harm us and we really shouldn't detain them. But, you know, we're at war. And the laws of war very clearly state that while you're at war, you can detain enemy combatants to prevent them from returning to the battlefield. 75% of the American people do not think that our government should be bringing terrorists to the homeland, and they're right.
Okay, I know there are very strong feelings here on both sides, but we're going to do what we do every night, which is try to find some common ground on this, an area where the two of you can agree. I'm hopeful. You have the commercial to think about it. We'll be back in a moment. We're back with tonight's great debate, and the premise, bringing Guantanamo Bay detainees to America is a security risk. Liz Cheney, the former vice president's daughter, has said yes to this. Salon.com editor Joan Walsh saying no. We're going to try to find some common ground right now, guys. Liz, do you think there's an area here relating to the policy where you and Joan can agree?
Campbell, I just don't think there is. I mean, I think there are some issues on which, I know, I'm sorry, but I just think there are some issues. You know, I firmly believe our government ought to detain terrorists, it ought to defend us against terrorism, and it ought to kill terrorists when necessary. And it certainly shouldn't facilitate their entry into the U.S. And I think Joan and I just we don't see eye to eye on that. I mean, maybe Joan can suggest something,
wow.
But sometimes I think it's better to be very clear about what your position is and what your stand is on an issue as important as this one.
Joan, any
Campbell,
common
I actually
ground
had
here?
a couple of ideas.
Okay, let's hear
I had
them.
a couple of ideas. First of all, we both love and admire our fathers. That's very important, foundational, gives us something in common. Second of all, I believe we both really and truly want to keep America safe. Sitting here in San Francisco, a city that I love very much, I won't be condescended to about that. I care about the security of this country, and I believe that torture and illegal detention has made us less safe. Finally, I think Liz is probably very excited that the pro-America party won the election in Lebanon, and that we're both looking forward to the possibility of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad losing on Friday, which would show that the Obama administration's approach of reaching out rather than alienating the Muslim world might be working.
Right.
I bet she's hoping the same thing.
Actually, I disagree with you on the last part of that there, Joan. I don't think it makes that much of a difference who wins the election in Iran at the end of this week. I think that the Iranian regime will continue to pursue the same policy, but I will grant you that we love our fathers and we love our country.
Thank you, Liz, Joan.
All right,
thank you, guys.
go.
Appreciate it. It really was a great debate.